Model Making Guru is sponsored by emodels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs. emodels.co.uk. Make something awesome. Hey everyone, it's Foxx from Model Making Guru here. Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Warhammer Conquest series, in which I'll be following all 80 issues of the Hachette Warhammer Conquest partworks. This episode is just a very quick look at what we get in issues 27, 28, 29 and 30. We'll be going ahead and painting and building everything individually later on in the year, but for now we're just doing quick overlooks at what we get each month, and I'm trying to get rid of my backlog of magazines. Now we've actually got quite a lot to cover today, because in this batch not only do we get these 4 magazines, we get all that, and we get some brushes, and we get another binder. Okay, so we're going to go through the magazines first of all, and logically we'll start with issue 27 for this month's batch of magazines. And 27 and 28 are going to be great because we get our first decent vehicle. We get the Rhino, the Chaos Rhino, which is a corrupted version of the Imperial Rhino transport. Now, the interesting thing about these magazines, over the next few issues, and I assume later on throughout the series, they're going to talk about stuff and give you lots of information about stuff that you're not actually going to get at all with this partwork series. You're not going to get another Rhino for the Imperial troops. You'll get the repulsor tank later on. You're not going to get one of these. And it does say, if you read through the blurb, the original Imperial Rhino is no good for Primaris Space Marines. It can't transport them. The new Marines that only came out a couple of years ago, the new Space Marines, this is like 20-year-old model. The new Space Marines are only a couple of years old, and they can't go in this. So even if you got one of these with your army in this partwork, you couldn't use it with the Space Marines you're going to get. So it's interesting that they give you all the information about vehicles and stuff that you're not actually going to get, because you can, of course, go off to Games Workshop and buy a kit for a Rhino. You can buy some old-style Space Marines that can go in the back of it, the troop transport. So it's interesting they give you all this information for stuff you're not going to get, because it does mean that once you've got all your armies built and you're playing the game, you can start expanding your army by buying your own stuff, and it'll give you information. So it's kind of nice to do that. But it starts off by talking about the Rhino transport, all the markings and everything else, again, which you're not going to use because it's a Chaos Rhino, not one of these. Next, though, it does show you the Chaos version of the Rhino. These are basically vehicles that have been commandeered or stolen from the Imperial forces and used by Chaos forces. Now, unlike the Imperial guys who look after and venerate and maintain their vehicles, Chaos guys don't care about theirs. They don't care. It's just a vehicle to them. It's just a car, a truck. However, the Chaos versions, more often than not, but not always, they have a demon. They're inhabited by a demon who's kind of the soul of the vehicle. And they're usually quite grumpy and quite cantankerous. So do read about this. There's all blurb about these and how they come together. The driver, for example, is usually seen as a punishment if you're a single crew member of a Rhino, because ultimately you'll get kind of absorbed into the vehicle and taken over by the demon. It's not something you'd volunteer to do. You will just get absorbed into it, and they're always grumpy apparently. So fascinating information. There's a lot of information in here, so do read it. All usual fluff, and then we get to the buildy, and these are basically now just standard Games Workshop instructions printed into a magazine, which is kind of nice, straightforward instructions. These are all numbered parts. There are, however, a few steps in here that are optional, and when we get to building this, I will explain these. I had to read this a couple of times to get my brain around it, because it's not fully explained very well in the tradition of Games Workshop instructions. You've got options for the combi bolters on the turret, and you've got the Havoc missile launcher that goes on the other turret. You've got options. You can have the guy manning the guns, you can have him inside and the turret's closed, or the hatch I should say is closed. You can have him sticking out a little bit. You can do different things, and there are different options, so it does give you some options, but the instructions are not exactly clear. So when we get to build this, I'll go through it. Then, of course, we come back to the new game stuff, and this is just the usual stuff, introducing new tactics and techniques to you. It's not at this point using the vehicle, because you haven't painted it yet, so it's still kind of sticking with the models you've already done and painted. And that is issue 27. Next up we have issue 28, which of course is carrying on with the Rhino. So now it's going to start talking about some of the variations of the Rhino. In this case, the Predator battle tank, which is basically a Rhino with a big ass gun on the top and sometimes guns on the sponsons. It's got a nice cutaway diagram here of what's inside. Again, talks about the Chaos version. Again, explains how it's got a grumpy demon inside it that kind of inhabits it and is the soul of the vehicle. Some more fluff. It's got some information on Mortarion. Mortarion is the Primarch. You remember how Reboot Gulliman is the Primarch of the Ultramarines? And he's like this, at the moment, he's the only known living surviving Primarch of the Emperor of Man. Mortarion is one of the Primarchs of the Chaos side. He was a son of the Emperor. He was originally a Primarch of the Emperor of Mankind, but he got corrupted and went to Chaos. So he's now the Primarch of the Death Guard. That's his dudes, and he's awesome. I've got a model there is a model of Mortarion you can get. You don't get him in this, but he's like that big and it's mint, and I've got him ready to paint. Oh, I can't wait to do it. So we have that. Then in the instructions we go through the painty of the Rhino. We're not going to do any of that because that is nonsense. I mean, it's all right if you're only following the magazine and that's all you're doing, you're fine. It'll look all right. It's a bit clean, and it does say there'll be some bits you can do later on. How does it say? It says we'll return to the Chaos Rhino then to add extra details and colours later on. Yeah, we can do better than that. It needs to be filthy and dirty and rusty and horrible. The whole blurb in the previous magazine and this one explains how they're covered in rust and disease and they're horrible, and that's clean. So we're going to be ignoring all this painting guide, all of it completely. We'll probably follow some of the same steps. We'll paint some of the things the same colour. We're going to ignore all of that, and this will get its own special, proper painting episode. So ignore it. You can paint it like this if you want, but I'm not going to be filming that. We'll get a proper paint job. And then, of course, we get on to introducing transports into gameplay in the actual gameplay section, and mechanised warfare, using those as, because they're armed, using those as offensive capability type things. So it starts to introduce that. Now you've built and painted it, it starts to introduce that into gameplay, and that is issue 28. Next up we have issue 29, and we return to painting little tiny angry space dudes. Yes, we're going to go through some captains and other figures. So we're going back to the Ultramarines. We've got some blurb about Space Marine captains, some more Space Marine information. We've got the second culture... Bleh, words. Get my words out. I need more coffee. Hang on. Let me get my enormous coffee of happiness. Yes. Oh. Almost empty. Travesty. That needs to be sorted later on. And by later on, I mean in about 5 minutes. We have a breakdown of the Ultramarines' second company, a bit more fluff, and it's quite interesting. You get to see how the entire unit is built up. You could theoretically use this as a guide for if you're building your own army. You could use this as a guide. What else do we have? More fluff and story and lore, information on plague bearers. This is quite delightful. And it's actually this, I won't read it out to you, but this bit, it says, pestilent and bloated, plague bearers are the disease-riddled foot soldiers of Nurgle. They march in massed ranks, overwhelming the enemy with their sheer numbers. Yeah, and there's quite an amusing description of a plague bearer later on. They're really grumpy, as always, so do read that. Space Marine officers, it's the how to build and the how to paint. And I've figured out what they're doing now, why they're doing this. Remember how I've said they've been showing here's the finished thing on a page? It's because they're really compressing down the painting instructions. Before, they'd go through every little step. Paint this, paint that, paint this bit there. Look at that, do that. Oh, that's nice, paint that. Now they're just saying, paint these black. Here's a list of the things you want to paint. Lead Belcher. Here's a list of the things you want to paint. Rakarth Flesh. Go through quickly, and this is what they look like. Partially because you've got the experience now, you know what you're doing. And partially because they've got more colours and they have to get through them quickly. You don't want 13 pages of painting. So they are streamlining the painting a bit. Again, if you're following this, that's fine. I don't know. We might paint him properly, the captain in Gravisom. I don't know yet. The other guys are just guys, so they'll just get the standard paint job. And remember, like I've said before, the plan for this is that most of it will be painted. Most? Wow, that's weird. Most of it will be... Oh, wait. What little I've got left. Oh, there we go. Life affirming coffee. Most of it will be painted according to the magazine. So, like this. Special things we'll take out and we'll do a proper professional paint job, and I'll show you how I do that. But then once everything is finished and all 80 issues have been built and painted, what I'm going to do is then go back and take all the things I've painted following the magazine, strip the paint and repaint them all properly and film all those episodes as well. So this is a project, like I said, it's going to go on for the next 3 or 4 years because there's so much to paint. And this has got another 1.5 years to go. So yeah, so don't panic if some of these are getting painted as per the magazine. We will come back and repaint them properly in a grown-up way further down the line. And then we've got the gameplay section, of course. There's nothing really too new to introduce here, so it's just quite simply a mission and a card for your captain. You're kind of getting the hang of the gameplay now, so you know what you're doing. That is issue 29. And last but by no means least, we have issue 30, which came with some more terrain pieces. This is mostly going to be fluff because there's not a lot of new stuff to do here. There's not new vehicles to introduce and explain. So they're going to be talking about the Primarchs. Remember I said the Primarchs are like sort of the son of the Emperor. They're not literally the son of the Emperor. But there were a load of them. Now there's only potentially, as far as we know, Reboot Gulliman, who's the last surviving one. Some of them went off to be evil and went to chaos. And some of them have just vanished or dead. Some of them could be dead. So it talks about the Primarchs, and it talks about the Heralds of Nurgle. Again, this is quite an amusing read. It explains what the Heralds do, but there's a little explanation in here about one of the Heralds in particular, who's quite charming. It says, mortals who resist the ravages of Nurgle's rot for a long time transform into unusually tough plague bearers, resulting in larger, more resilient individuals. These warriors are blessed indeed, for they will rise to the rank of Herald as poxbringers. So yeah, Heralds and poxbringers. Oh, brilliant. There's a really funny section there. Go on, just make sure you read it. More fluff. Then we start making our riser ruins and how to paint them again. There's not a lot to do. They're dead simple to build. They're not complicated to paint. We'll probably do a bit more. We won't do this. This is kind of bland. We'll do a proper paint job on these, at least on one of them. And then you do get some instructions as to how to use them in your gameplay. They don't have massive gameplay implications, but they do for like the cover mechanic. So it will have a sort of a bit of description and then some more gameplay stuff. And again, you've got one of these things where you can mark off who's won which terrain. I like this, where they have like different zones, and as you play the games, you can mark off who's won and who's lost. So I like that. And that is issue 30. So now it's time to have a look at all the goodies and treats that come with these 4 magazines. First up, we have issue 27, and these 2 beautiful sprues. Oh, it's nice to get some substantive stuff now that isn't just scenery. Yes, we get these wonderful sprues for the Rhino. And this is, I did say it was a 20-year-old kit. It's not, it's 2006. So it's 13 years old, but it's still, despite being a bit old, it's a wonderfully detailed, lovely, fantastic piece of moulding on here. You've got all this wonderful detail. Now, the thing is, you do get some options even with this. You get the option of the interior. Flash there, let's get that off. You get the option of the interior. The rear door here, this is the rear door. It's got the hinge on it. You can build it, you can glue it in place if you want. Or you can build it so it's open and closable. Openable and closable. Openable. You can have it movable. And what you can do, there is an interior. You get, there's the interior floor. It's only simple. You get, this is the wall, the firewall before the cab area where the driver would sit. And you get a look at a telly screen and a gun and everything. So there is an interior you can actually paint up if you want to have the door openable, because it is a transport, it's a troop carrier, and it's just a bit of fun basically. I think I might paint the interior. I've got my usual standard colour, so I'll probably be painting the interior, I think, possibly. It's also got a lot of potential for lighting if you wanted to add lighting to it. I'm not going to, because I don't do lighting. But yes, you've got the potential if you want to add lighting. I know people have put lighting on this thing. Now, there is one thing I noticed. If you look at the top upper part of the hull here on this sprue, there is a massive stress mark on all of the attachment points. It's very weird. It kind of sits at a funny angle. It's a bit wonky. That's probably just been squashed in transit. But don't worry too much. We're going to be doing this as a chaos vehicle because it is a chaos vehicle. So we're going to have chips and things like that, damage and battle damage and chips, not only painted onto it, but also we're going to get the Dremel out and do a bit of physical damage to this. So if we do get any sort of damage to the part here when we take this off the sprue, that's fine. We'll just make it into battle damage. So don't worry too much. But yeah, that's brilliant. So that is what you get in issue 27. Moving on to issue 28, you get the final 2 sprues for the Rhino, and this is where you get all the optional parts for the 2 cupolers. You've got the missile launcher rack, and you've got all the bits for the dude, what goes in the cupola, in the hatch. You can build him either sticking out quite far, or you can have him just poking his head out, or you can have it completely closed if you don't want to paint the dude, and all little bits of optional extras, bits of greebles and details, some markings that may go on the side. You've got the combi bolters there and bits for the missile rack. You also get all these extra bits. Now these all have certain places to go. The instructions will tell you where to put these. They have a place to go and a function to serve. These, it just says slap them wherever you want. Put them where you fancy, because these are all little markings. They're either little sort of Chaos Faction markings or just random greebles that you can put wherever you want, chains and spikes and all kinds of things. So with these you can have some proper good fun just putting these, as few or as many as you want, wherever you want. So lots of nice little additional details, and bizarrely the colour is ever so slightly different, only a tiny amount, like most people wouldn't notice, but the green is ever so slightly different. But again, lots more lovely beautiful detail. We can get them stuck everywhere. Issue 29, and we're back to the blue plastic Primaris colours. Primaris. Your Primarnis. They're back with your 4 officers. The captain in Gravis armour. There's the Inceptor sergeant. There's the other sergeant and the sergeant that comes after that. I can't remember which ones they are. I've not got the magazine in front of me. But yeah, you've got the dude with the flowy cloak and the others. And as always, these are the usual buttery soft yet slightly brittle, like peanut brittle plastic. Absolutely fantastic, beautiful detailing. Nothing really to shout about on these other than they're just as good as the other ones. The captain in Gravis armour, that is a really nice figure, so we might do a special painting of him. The Inceptor, we've already done one. We'll probably go back and paint them later. And the other 2 guys, they are sergeants, but we're not going to treat them any. We'll probably just paint them like the magazine says, and again, come back to them later. But yes, lots of lovely detail. We'll have to make sure we do some dry fitting of this cloaky cloak to see how it goes when he's on the base, because I don't want to glue him on the base and then find I can't get around the back of his cloak. I don't want to do that. So we'll do a dry fit build with this chap just to see what the access is to the inside of his cloak. But yeah, pretty good. Let's go and have a look at the last one, issue 30. Issue 30 is more chocolate. Yeah, they so look like chocolate. Now, these are quite old. What's the date on these? These are, well, it's labelled as 2017, but I'm sure these have been around since like 2003, the Rise of Ruins. Anyway, unusually, I don't quite know why. I think it's so they don't fly around all over the playing mat, but when you get things like these Rise of Ruins, which are a standalone set, they're like... They're really heavy, they're really thick, dense plastic. They're made of stone. These are like this, where just this one single sprue weighs as much as all those other sprues we've shown so far combined, and then some. They are massively heavy, and I think, just as I'm explaining it to you now, I think my brain's probably realised it's so they don't fly around all over the map when you're doing stuff. Not too complicated, they're just designed to be terrain pieces, nothing fantastic. They're not supposed to blow your mind. The focus is on the gameplay and your little dudes looking really fabulous. They're just supposed to be nice bits of terrain. Lots of lovely detail. You can build your own stories. We'll probably do some battle damage to these as well with some Dremels if we do a proper paint job, and we'll do a proper paint job. I think you get 2 or 3 of these, in the same way you got 3 sets of the barrels and the shipping containers. I think you get 2 or 3 of these, so we'll probably paint one of them all proper like, and the others by the magazine, or we might just paint them all in one go, the same as we're going to do with the barrels and the containers. But yeah, lots of lovely detail on here. This is referred to as a hatch, and it's just a piece that goes on the floor because it's a hatch, and I really have to figure out some way to get 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 on there. Anyway, that's all the bits that come. Oh, I forgot to show, we got some bases as well with the with issue 29. You can see my marking strategy. Bases that come with issue 29 for the figures. So that's all the stuff that comes with all the magazines if you are a normal subscriber. There is, of course, the extra stuff if you're a premium subscriber. So let's have a quick look at that. Okay, so the first thing, premium subscribers. Remember, this is people that subscribe to the premium edition of the partwork, not people that are my premium subscribers. Premium subscribers, the first thing they get this month is some more Games Workshop Citadel brushes. We get a base brush, this nice chisel edge base brush, which also makes a good dry brush. We get a shade brush, which is a nice big fat bristled pointy but round tipped brush for carrying lots of shades. You can apply shades nicely. And this nice little small layer brush, which is going to be quite handy for painting the smaller details. You still probably want to get yourself something even smaller, like if you're getting the Citadel brushes, an Artificer, which is for really tiny details, or something in the Army Painter range, or something like that, a very fine detail brush. But these three, added to the ones we've got so far, the base and the other brushes, which I forget what we've got so far, gives you a nice selection of brushes. So if you've been using crappy brushes up till now, you can start to paint things properly. I do think it's a shame that you've had to sit through up to 30 issues before you start to get the decent brushes. Now obviously most of you will have either you'll already have brushes or you've gone out and bought your own brushes because I told you to. But if you're just going off the magazine, you've had to paint so much so far with the crappy brush you started with, and I think one base brush and a dry brush, and that's it. And there's some big stuff you've had to paint with a little farty brush. So the fact you get these now is pretty good, but you want to go and buy a lot more brushes. Now there's one other thing we get as well, and that is this. Yes, in this month's pack you get another binder for all your magazines. Now it sounds like a really cool thing. There is a downside. There's a caveat here. If you've been building this so far, if you've not got any of these, if you're not subscribed to this artwork yet, then you might know. But so far we've been building up this collection from all the magazines. And yes, I've been collecting these. So we get all this stuff in the magazines. And what you do is you stick it in your binder. This one's getting a bit full. So here's the next binder. We can start to fill it up again. The problem is that when you look at the magazines, they have sections. Everything is built up into different sections. And they don't follow in this order that they are in the magazine. You know, this is like 40k Battles 13, Death Guard Legion 5, Death Guard War Machines 3. And the other problem is, in your first folder, you get these nice dividers. Now what you do is you go through each section. So you say Space Marines, War Machines 3. So I would go in and I'd be like, okay, Space Marines, War Machines is in section 2, so let's find out. Where's War Machines? It comes after Warriors. Chapters, there we go. Warriors 4. What do I want? War Machines, what? 2, wasn't it? So War Machines 1, War Machines 1, War Machines 2, War Gear 1. So it would go here. It would go after that one, but before that one. But the problem is that you'll go through this and you'll see that it might, I can't find an example right away, but it says like here, Legion 3.1, Legion 4, Legion 5. If it says 3.1, it normally means there's going to be a 3.2. We haven't got that yet. Now, Legion 3.2 might not be until another 10 issues from now. So you're going to have to come back in. But the point is, I can't keep adding stuff in here because this is getting full. And to make it even more complicated, we don't get any more dividers. So we're going to have to take each magazine apart, have this one open, this old one, because it comes with these 4 dividers. You've got the build, the paint, the play, and the collect sections. We're going to have this open so we can read the blurb for each section here. We're going to then take the magazine apart, put it into our new binder by keeping this open and referring to that, get them in order, and then realising that you might have, like, now let's find, you might have Battles Part 5, Battles Part 6, but Battles Part 4 might be in this folder over here. So it's a bit of a, it's a great thing we've got it, but they kind of do half a job. So what I'm going to have to do going forward is, now I've filled up this first binder, that's all nicely in order. What I'm going to do going forward is, as I do each magazine, pull out the build and paint section. So I will just pull out, because I'm going to be building and painting things. So I'm going to be building things on the Warhammer Sundays program, and then painting them separately in different episodes. So what I'm going to do is pull out the build and paint section like that, put it to one side, and this will have to just sit in there. And then when we've got to issue 80 and we've got everything, because I'm a bit anal like this, I like to be a bit OCD, I'm going to have to come back, and because we get 4 of these folders, I'm going to get folder 2, 3 and 4, get all the magazines out, and then start to put everything together in order. So that, because it may be that I get an insert in issue 74 that needs to go in like here in the first folder. So you don't know. So Going forward, this is just going to be magazine, 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 and I'll sort them out later. So you do get this. It's a brilliant thing because it does mean you've not got lots of magazines lying around. But they could have kind of planned it a bit better. They could have, at the very least, given you more of these dividers, the collect, build, paint and play, just so you can at least organise them somehow. They should have acknowledged the fact that you're going to have more than one binder. So, it's quite frustrating. But yes, you do get one free, so we're going to get 4 of these. It's going to look pretty good. So at least I've got somewhere to store these. And there you have it. That's all the stuff that comes with issues 27, 28, 29 and 30. And that is a pretty good haul. Many things. There's lots and lots of painting to do in here. Tons of painting. Going to keep you busy for a long time. Now, like I've explained before, I am at the moment working my way through all the packages I've got in my spare room that are just the ones I've been sent each month with all these goodies and things in. I'm working my way through slowly just to get rid of them all and get them in a box and get them all neatly sorted out and tidied away. There'll be a few more of these throughout the next few days just as I work my way through. The buildy of all these things and all the ones we're going to feature in these quick look episodes, that'll be done over the coming weeks in my Warhammer Sundays live streams. Every Sunday, 3 p.m. on this channel, I do a Warhammer Sunday live stream, so I'll be just getting all these things built up so I can put them away in shelves and in carry cases and stuff, and then I can come back to paint them later on in the year. I've got the Master Grade Sazabi and the Perfect Grade Millennium Falcon to do before I get back to painting any of these, but at least I can get them built during Warhammer Sundays. So keep watching for more of these. Make sure to watch Warhammer Sundays on Sundays 3 p.m. BST or GMT later on this year, depending on what time of year you're watching this. But until the next time, I shall say thank you very much for watching. Do take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome like these. Go be awesome. You there, be awesome. And until next time, adios amoebas.